Russian forces are reportedly only 25 kilometers from Ukraine's capital, as shelling is already damaging some of its neighborhoods. According to Ukraine's military, Russia is trying to take out the city's north and west defenses, and the country's presidential advisor described the capital as a city under siege. Despite this, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said that Ukraine's forces are doing everything to deprive the enemy of any desire to continue the war against Ukraine, and he added, the losses of Russian forces are enormous. The dynamics of the losses of the occupiers on the 17th day is such that it is sure to say that this is the biggest blow to the Russian army in decades. Nowhere they've lost more than during these days. Since the beginning of the invasion, the 31st Battalion Tactical Group of the enemy has lost combat capability. The Russian military surrenders not just one by one, but in whole groups. Concerns are also mounting for the inhabitants of the southern port of Mariupol. An estimated 1,500 people have been killed in the city, and it is running out of food, according to an official from Doctors Without Borders. And Ukraine has predicted that Belarus could soon join Russian forces. Russia's chief spokesman for the Ministry of Defense, Major General Igor Konashenkov, said in the morning on March 12th, a high-precision long-range weapon attacked Ukraine's military infrastructure facilities. And he added, the military airfield Valsukiv and the main center of radio and electronic intelligence of the armed forces of Ukraine in Rovada were put out of the action. During the day, aviation and air defense of the Russian aerospace forces shot down 5 unnamed aerial vehicles in the air. Since the war began, President Zelensky has repeatedly asked NATO to intervene, but U.S. President Joe Biden has ruled out direct support for the country, saying it could potentially lead to another world war.
Russia's military has stepped up its offensive in Ukraine and the fighting is now spreading westwards. Euronews correspondent Annalise Borges reports from the western city of Lviv, where thousands of people are trying to flee by train.
People here in Lviv are in shock and terrified about what may happen next. The fact that the Russian offensive was expanded today and certain cities nearby were targeted really gave many here a sense that the war is getting closer. Lviv, up until now, was a safe haven for many who have escaped Russian strikes in the east and have been waiting here for a plan, for an idea about what to do next. Many we met here at Lviv Central Station today saying that they don't think this place is safe anymore. They were boarding trains to Poland, hoping that they can wait across the border for the situation to calm down. We saw heartbreaking scenes of men saying goodbye to their wives, to their children. We also saw elderly people struggling to get on those trains, wondering what is going to happen to them. And we heard many people appealing to the West to close the sky, many asking for a no-fly zone over Ukraine, especially now in view of what people here in this country are considering an escalation, this expansion of the Russian offensive into the West. Annalise Borges in Lviv for Euronews.
A group of mostly volunteers have transformed a sports center in Warsaw into an emergency shelter. Rooms are filled with huge piles of donated items, such as diapers and clothes. And what was once an arena is now a living area, with cots lined up for refugees from Ukraine. The coordinator of the refugee center said that 1,300 people have already been housed there. And she added that the number of those staying here is constantly rotating. They come, they leave, we are constantly organizing transport, so a constant number is impossible to estimate. Over 2.5 million people have fled Ukraine since the war started, and a little under half of that figure are children, while the rest is made up of mostly women and the elderly. And as the number of refugees grow, so do concerns that some of them could be exploited by human traffickers and other forms of abuse.
The risk for these things to happen is very high. A lot of women are trafficked every year. Children, because it's a risk not only for women but also for children. So in times like this, when people mobilize, as you see here, a lot of Romanians mobilize, and I'm very proud. But the risks for other people that can capitalize on the pain of these families is very high.
More and more people leaving Ukraine are being forced to stay with people they don't know. When the war started, 95% of the refugees in Poland were able to stay with family or friends. But now that number has decreased to only 70%.
We're surprised that there's no information gathering of any kind, and I think we're the good guys carrying people back, but there can also be bad guys who are there for bad things.
Some safety advice given to refugees includes telling them to keep their phone batteries charged and to document the license plates of cars they get into.
When Vladimir Putin ordered his war on Ukraine, business at this Russian restaurant in New York changed overnight. With the war oceans away, staff say their restaurants have become a culinary frontline for Americans. And despite these posters on their doors, they're struggling to get their message across.
We started getting phone calls calling us Nazis, fascists, our restaurant should burn. But I have family in Russia, and I have family in Ukraine, so it's a personal tragedy. Overnight, my business dropped by 60%. The cancellations were canceled. Reservations were canceled left and right. Events were canceled.
Russian venues across the US have been vandalized as part of the domestic fallout from the war in Ukraine. In this New York bar, staff have been verbally abused.
Bartenders and staff from all the world, from Poland, Ukraine, Kazakh, Uzbekistan, like Russia, Armenia. Our owners is Jewish, and we not support that war. But it's not a Russian war; it's Putin's war.
For now, they carry on with their jobs, looking on with the rest of the world at what's unfolding in Ukraine and hoping for peace.
Italy's culture minister has agreed to the return of major works of art that are currently on loan from Russia. Officials have asked that 25 pieces in 2 galleries here in Milan are returned. Meanwhile, the UN's cultural agency says it fears for the safety of Ukraine's cultural heritage. And it also has in mind the close links between the Orthodox churches of Russia and Ukraine.
A
site which for us is of great concern in the city of Kiev, which is a World Heritage Site. This site has 2 very important ensembles, the St. Sophia Cathedral and also the Lavra Monastic Complex. These 2 places are testimony to the birth of the Russian Orthodox Church. Meanwhile, museum workers across Ukraine are trying to protect their exhibits from Russian attacks. Armenia's foreign minister has made a rare visit to Turkey for a meeting with his counterpart. After decades of hostility that has roots in Turkey's genocide against the Armenians in 1914, both countries are now moving closer together. Around 1.2 million Armenians were either massacred, deported or sent on death marches. In our meeting, we agreed on the continuation of the normalization phase, with the aim of establishing diplomatic relations without preconditions and the opening of borders. Azerbaijan is also pleased with the steps that are being taken and the normalization process between Turkey and Armenia. As you know, I was in Baku last Saturday. Azerbaijan supports this process. In 2020, Turkey backed Azerbaijan, helping it defeat Armenia after just 6 weeks of fighting in a war over the Nagorno-Karabakh breakaway region. Josep Borrell, the European Union's foreign policy chief, also met with the 2 foreign ministers in Antalya.